Hey, welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Videos. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to be diving into some old comics I picked up at a local comic shop here a while back. I'm not a big fan of calling something a grail. I know that's kind of a weird thing because one person's grail may not be another's, and the industry tends to think, or the collective, if you will, tends to think certain books are grail over others. I feel like every person's, somebody's treasures another person's trash, and vice versa. So if it's your grail, if you love a book, it's your grail. That's what it is. Some of my favorite comics are books I have special memories of when I got them, where I was in my life when I read the book. Maybe one of the first comics you ever bought off the rack, or a back issue, So if you want to call something a grail, rock on. It can be your grail. Nobody else has to agree with that, right? So with that being said, I'm going to get into some of these books. Might be some super books in here, some fantastic books in here. If you're curious about what's coming up, please like the video. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Hit notifications so you get notified when we have some new content. Got some other, I guess you could call them kind of grails coming up here in the next week or so. Just have been very fortunate to come across some really great books, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. That being said, let's get right into it. First up, I had this run way back when it came out, and according to CLZ, I have the first issue somewhere. But I'm not able to locate the other ones, the 2 through 6. This is John Byrne's Man of Steel. And I just love the cover gimmick for most of these things, where he's got whichever character he's focusing on there on the left-hand side of the page, and an action shot on the right. In this case, obviously, it's Lois Lane. This was just a really good, fun reset of the character in the mid-'80s after Crisis on Infinite Earths, and where they got rid of Earth 2 Superman, or the Earth 2 period, I guess. This was just, I don't know I don't know if I can overemphasize how big of a deal that was to take a character who was, preeminent DC, maybe even preeminent superhero. Sorry, Spidey, I know you're my guy. But and to revamp it, to totally say, hey, we're starting over with this character, and here's the backstory. So number one might have been one of the first, variant covers. I have to look that up. Maybe you can let me know in the comments that they had two different covers. One where he's doing the big S reveal. It's just a shot of just the chest shot with the S, and there's another one, and I'm drawing a blank on what the other one looked like. But there were two. I think it maybe had Krypton blowing up as part of the cover thing. But there were two different covers for that book. And I'll need to do a little research. Again, you guys help me out in the comments if that was the first variant cover, because it may very well have been. Next up, number 3 in that series. It's kind of cool. As you can see, Batman is the focus in this one. This was kind of a redoing of the first meeting supposedly between Batman and Superman. So World's Finest getting its start there. Number 4 is Lex Luthor, and this is the one that's oddest, the biggest change probably. Lex in the 70s had been, super madman genius with powerful suit of armor kind of thing to be able to duke it out with Superman, in and out of jail all the time, just kind of like Batman's Joker relationship, where Lex would, get arrested and be locked up, but everybody knew he was a maniacal, evil genius. And here they kind of re-envisioned him as more of a kingpin character, like he's a wealthy industrialist, inventor, still a genius, and he's got hair, as you can see there, or some hair. And so that was kind of a reimagining of Lex Luthor that Byrne did there. He was writing and drawing these, by the way. I do not remember who was inking him, and the Rams are playing Carolina here in just a few minutes. That's where I am in terms of real time. I know you'll be watching this after that game, and after the NFL playoffs this weekend have occurred. But so it's a little bit of a short episode because Go Rams almost went to the game but chose not to, but am obviously pulling for them against the Panthers. Though I do like the Panthers, just come on, the Rams are the Rams, right? Rams Santa back here. We now take you back to your regularly scheduled Heroes and Videos. Number 5 is Bizarro, as you can tell walking away there. So Bizarro is kind of that's Bizarro's story here, in wrapping up the penultimate issue. And then finally, for those of you that may not be into Smallville, or the town of the storyline from way back with Superboy, who no longer existed after after this reset for a while. This is Lana Lang on the left there. He returns to Smallville, and you see Jor-El. John Byrne, I think, did a little Tales of Krypton series around this time. That's kind of what Jor-El and the Kryptonians were looking like at that point. And it's very interesting the way it wraps up. It feels like they made a conscious decision to say, yeah, he's not, the Kryptonian thing is just his past. It's just his heritage, but it is not in any way, shape, or form who he is. And they make a point at the end of the book to say, hey, he's here on Earth. He's an Earth person. He's human. He's not. His Kryptonian past is there, but what's made him the individual he is obviously being raised in Smallville and his life here on Earth. So it's kind of how they wrap that up with a pretty neat little, not a splash page, but the last page is kind of a really cool John Byrne Superman shot. Next up is Secret Origins Annual. Back in 1989, found this. I'm sure I had it at some point. It's an 80-page giant, Secret Origins with the Teen Titans, with all kinds of iterations of the Titans there. You may see our favorite boy wonder, Dick Grayson, in the middle, going through his various stages there as Robin, much younger Robin, cool teenage Robin, which is what he was when I remember him, like college age when I started reading comics. Dick Grayson, college age when I started reading comics, not me. I was much younger. And then Nightwing, and then at that point, I guess he was no longer Nightwing. He was just Dick Grayson, or unless that's a representation at the bottom of the fact that that's who he is through all of that. So what's really cool about this is all the different artists in this story. It takes you through, Dick's having some kind of dream sequence, or is it story through the whole thing, and it takes you through all these incredible artists: George Perez, Aiken, Garvey, Michael Baer, Bright, Cockrum, so Dave Cockrum, Dick Giordano, Duran, I'm forgetting your first name, Tom Grummett, Carl Kessel, Kevin McGuire, I want to say Carl Malstedt, I apologize, Meme, and Irv Novick, or Meme, I don't know what your first name is, Romeo Tangel, I don't remember Van Bruggen or Von Eden's first names. I guess after Perez, it looks like everybody's alphabetical, so... And I get it. George Perez should be at the top of that list for artists for Titans, and everybody else having to just fall in alphabetically after that. It's just really cool because they're each drawing different eras. So there's some stuff. I almost had to look to see if Dick Sprang was one of these folks, because there is one of the. It's a few pages each that they get, and there's even a little legend at the end say here's who did what pages. Perez, since he was on the book at the time, he does the frame. Out of 50s Batman. I mean, it's really cool. It's like they have on this. So it's kind of a neat story. Meant to the Titans very much. And it's just a nice, a very cool. So pretty neat. Next up, and we are almost to those semi-grails I talked about, or my grails. Your mileage may vary. This is a what if issue. What if the Hulk went berserk? I haven't looked, but I've got to think that's a Bill. Here we go. I'm going to butcher Bill's name. Sigovich? Bill Sigovich. Sigovich. Bill, it looks like drew this cover. I don't see a signature squiggle on here anywhere, but it's got that painted feel and, stuff just going all over the place there. This is a book I had years ago. Cardinal Sin. I know we all swear we'll never do it as comic fans, or particularly especially if you owned a shop, that in an attic or in going through a shed. In a shed and damage. But box, maybe more like 15%, 10% at the back of it were damaged. But it included this one. A couple of the other gems that I found in that from years ago were the first couple issues of Marvel Premiere that had Ant-Man, Scott Lang's Ant-Man in it, and those were pristine shape, as were most of the rest of the books in the box. Sorry for the long story, the long sad story about those comics. And if you've got water damage comics, get rid of them. Don't keep them around anything else. Water damage leads to mold, other stuff getting on other comics. So don't, just, I'm sorry, but get rid of them. I hate to say that. Water damage, bad. Comics, good. This story itself, I did reread this after picking this up at the local comic shop, and it's not the best story. It's one of those what ifs that go off the rails. And spoiler, if you don't want to know about this 30-plus-year-old book, it ends really badly for the Hulk. And needless to say, without giving too much away, multiple characters go the Man of Steel, Zack Snyder, Zod route in terms of how they end up. It's not great. I mean, as with anything artistic, I appreciate the thought and effort and skill that goes into making any type of art, whatever we're talking about. Not just art. I'm talking about, art. I'm not just talking about paintings or drawings. Art, right? Theater, anything. I wasn't a big fan, but it's an awesome cover. So there you go. It'll probably up on the wall back here behind me. Oops. You just got to look at one of those Fantastic Fours I was referring to. So I'm a huge Silver Surfer fan. Surfer is easily one of my top characters. If I have to rank them, I'm going to say Amazing Spider-Man. Silver Surfer is probably second. I don't know if there's somebody in there fighting for third. Ben Grimm is obviously one of my big favorites as well. So lo and behold, look at here. Maybe my second and third favorite characters on this cover. Fantastic Four number 55, which is, I believe, the second time he shows up in their book, which I guess first appearance would have been 48. Then he's in 49. So he's on 50. So 3. This would be the fourth appearance, I think, of the Silver Surfer. Really just cool, awesome Kirby cover. I don't really care about some of the stuff the industry talks about. Like, I was talking about buzzwords like spine ticks, etc. There's some of that, I guess, on this. But I feel like it presents very well. Those purples kind of pop, and the yellow logo, the surfer there. It's a very weird, both of them are in very weird poses, but it's just a classic, cool, iconic cover, and it's one of the reasons why I've got some cool Surfer Fantastic Four covers here behind me. But that's just very neat. I've seen that in places, and it just was a really good deal at the comic shop. Something that I don't see much of, that was also a very good deal at the comic shop, was a little bit earlier issue of Fantastic Four with the Silver Surfer in it. Now, it's not first appearance, but it is the second appearance. So this is a book I never really thought I would have. Had a buddy years ago. Well, he's still my buddy. I have a friend that had this copy years ago as well, but never had one in my collection. And this is Fantastic Four number 49, If This Be Doomsday. Ooh. Speaking of Doomsday, we'll be having some stuff coming up on the channel about that this year, because obviously next year at this time we will all have already seen Avengers Doomsday. But this is not that Doom or that Doomsday. This is Galactus, as you can see. I don't know if he's just really big doing the hovering head thing that all those Avengers covers and Fantastic Four covers had. I think it's kind of the case of his head and hands are lit up, and everything else is just kind of in the clouded, if you will. But the FF in the front are getting blasted. Looks like by Galactus's little hand laser things or whatever. That's a bit of artistic license there. But it's just a great cover and a great book. The meat of the story kind of takes place in this. He kind of shows up at the end of 48, Galactus that is, so Surfer's in most of 48, and then Surfer's in this, and then 50 is kind of really half of the Fantastic Four issue. So as much as we talk about it being a trilogy, it's more like a 2.5 issue thing. But it's just an awesome cover and a great book, one I've always wanted to have in my collection. Again, as a huge Silver Surfer fan, as a huge fan of the Silver Surfer. Wait, yeah. that just really, I've always wanted to have this book. Obviously 48's on my list as well, but in terms of covers, this is probably my favorite cover of that trilogy. So it was just really pleased to pick it up. Kudos to the local comic shop that it's always getting in new old books and offering for great deals, and huge fan. So I was just really excited to get this book and been excited to show it here on the channel. So let me know what what some of your favorite books are, some of your favorite old books are. As always, let me know in the comments what you're reading, what kind of runs are you picking up. As you can see, we got Ram Santa on the label. I talked about Rams and Panthers playing. Whose House? Ram's House. Getting back to thinking about videos and heroes and videos. Wonder Man's dropping in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to reviewing that on the channel and checking it out as well. As always, thank you for spending some time with me. Keep reading comics, keep going to see movies, and be kind to each other.